Hey guys, I'm Malini Agarwal, also known as MissMalini, and I've been dying to have this conversation with Ranveer, also known as BeerBiceps. Social media personalities have such a different vibe when you just know someone virtually. Like, I've known you virtually for so long, but we never really stopped and had a conversation until one day at Cecilia's birthday, and we ended up having this amazing existential conversation about life, the universe, and everything. And it just made me realize that, you know, your social media, even though it's so positive and so, engaging, I still had a certain impression of you, maybe because of the name BeerBiceps, maybe because you work out. So my impression of you was someone who's really just focused on health and fitness. And I honestly thought also alcohol, because the beer, this is how ignorant I was about it. But I was so pleasantly surprised when we had our conversation. And I'm so glad that we're here today. So thank you.
Likewise. I've told you before, I'm going to tell you again, you were one of my cornerstones when we were designing BeerBiceps when we just started out. You were one of my reference points.
That's amazing. That means a lot to me. I think that's one of the key things that I always wanted to do, is leave some sort of legacy behind. And I think when people say that's really what it is. So a couple of things I wanted to talk about. One, how, we're all dealing with a lot of anxiety. We're all working from home and we're all conflicted about how to feel about it. But I wanted to talk about some of the emotions that we have, especially now that we're spending so much time on social media. And I'll be honest about the fact that even as someone who's a creator and someone who I tell myself all the time, numbers don't matter, likes don't matter, it still bothers me. I still do think about it. And I've tried to distill it down, because I'm writing my second book, which is literally on this topic of how to be good on social media, not good at it, but a good person, like the textbook we never got growing up, because no one trained us how to be on social media. And I wonder if it's that we worry not just what people think of us, but what other people think of us. So it's this vicious circle. Yeah. And did you ever feel that? And how do you deal with that?
Definitely felt it in my first couple of years. I used to feel that, airbrushing my photos and just using all those filters, it felt really empty, especially back then, there wasn't too much money in the game either. Like, when you just start out. So you kind of see your friends in their regular jobs kind of flourishing and you just start questioning yourself. Yeah. I think over time I went through that phase of feeling very nervous about numbers, scanning other people's numbers, things like that. But eventually, I think your thoughts are an outcome of all the conversations you end up having. And I've been blessed to have like beautiful conversations like the one you and me had like the other day. Which reminds me, I do think you should run everyone through that little game we played about, the visualization.
The cube and the ladder. Yeah, we should.
So, I mean, now I think that's the one beautiful thing about being a YouTuber. It opens a lot of doors. By being a YouTuber, I met Cecilia. Through Cecilia, I met you. Through you, I had like one of my most amazing conversations I've ever had in my life. In the same way, I've had a lot of conversations with some of my mentors. I do consider you a mentor in like many ways to myself. And there have been other Malinis in my life who've told me that, you know what, it's all about the impact you're creating. It's all about changing that one person's life. So I've had kids write into me about how, maybe the fitness videos help with their weight loss, therefore their confidence got boosted up. Yeah. Or someone actually once dropped me a message saying he was contemplating killing himself that day. Wow. So I had to have a conversation with him and I spoke him out of that. That's the bigger achievement than like the numbers.
That's huge. That's absolutely huge. That's a lot to deal with as well.
Yeah. So when you have experiences like that, I just feel that it kind of blurs out the numbers. At least that's I'm just talking from personal experience.
Yeah, fair enough. And I think that's one of the things that I'm trying to get to. And I want to be honest about how I feel about it, because it's so easy to tell people that no, it doesn't matter. And especially as influencers who get numbers, then people can be like, but obviously you don't care because you have such, the following. So it's this weird, cycle that happens. The other thing I wanted to tell you, and I really admire that on your social media, you talk about so many things, even when it comes to health and fitness, but you don't shy away from even covering topics that are very female oriented in a sense, right? Like PCOS, a lot of people don't even know what it is. And you delve deep into that topic and you use terminology that most people would feel squeamish about. Guys are very squeamish about talking about women's reproductive parts or their periods, and so what made you comfortable talking about those things, and how did you get to that place, and what made you do it?
So I've grown up in a family with like 5 gynecologists around, my grandparents, my parents, my sister. And I've only grown up with conversations about periods and conversations about PCOS at the dinner table. So it was very normalized for me. I think that's a factor. I don't know. Like, I mean, while I understand what you're saying, even while I was writing those videos, I never looked at it as, oh wait, this will be a little weird. I just thought that, it's another video. Like the same way I talk about men's suits, I would look at this the same way. I'm just putting information out there. And I do feel that, I mean, there aren't a lot of influencers in general, male, female, whatever, who aren't talking about these topics, though they should be spoken about. Because I've been a fitness trainer at one point in my life. I've trained a lot of women, and I know that these are very relevant questions. So I was focusing much more on the relevance than the question aspect of it.
Yeah, and because like in Malini's Girl Tribe, this conversation comes up so much because it has such an impact on women in terms of, how they look, how they feel about themselves, hair loss, physicality, all those different things. And it's a conversation that, most like women feel awkward about talking about. And, I had a great conversation with Rega Jha, the ex-editor of BuzzFeed once, and she said it's so funny how women function in the green room of the world, right? So we go to the bathroom and adjust each other's bra straps and fix each other's makeup, but then we come out into the world and have to play this role where we're almost apologetic to talk about our, personal experiences or periods and all those things. And the reason I brought up this topic is obviously recently this whole boys' locker room conversation exploded, and it's so scary that teenage boys are talking about underage girls, and for them it's normal to share these pictures and talk about them like that. So I wonder, especially from a perspective of positive masculinity, how did we get here and how do we fix this? At what stage do we need to intervene so this doesn't happen?
The one thing that my mom did correct with me was I switched over from a boys only school to a co-ed school in the 5th grade. And right before I switched over, she had the chat with me. She spoke to me about sex. She explained what sex is to me.
How do you do that to a 10-year-old?
So she's a gynecologist. So I think she actually drew out, the female reproductive system in front of me. Wow. She drew out the male reproductive system and she explained it to me. And she really normalized it. And I remember asking her, why are you doing this? Because I got slightly embarrassed.
Yeah.
And then she told me that no, this is needed. And, you'll understand the value of this later in life. And I'm understanding the value of it right now during this conversation.
Yeah.
So I just feel that having an elder sister, having a mom to kind of just give you perspective on things like periods, things like sex, really normalizes sex for you. It really normalizes, those feelings of attraction that you get towards girls. Yeah. But if you've grown up in a family that doesn't talk about sex at all, if you've grown up in a family where there's no older female figures to look up to, sometimes that ball can roll the wrong way. That's just what I feel. And I think that's what's happened here, where a lot of, I know it's really bad to generalize, but a lot of North Indian families especially really shy away from talking about sex openly. And that's why you see so much toxic masculinity in North India. That's why you see so many cases of, harassment in North India. It's because of this reason, that if you don't talk to a child about sex, the child will never normalize it. And the child will probably grow up into an adult who's not normalized it yet. And therefore they end up acting in like these inhuman ways.
And the way that you said, because then they get all the information from friends who may not be well informed, or from pornography where they only think of women in that certain way, as somebody who's supposed to be dominated. And I think what's interesting is that I was reading a lot about this, how, not saying something is also making a choice. So even little things where, you don't laugh at a sexist comment, or you don't accept friends sending you a picture like that. And I think especially for your audiences and my audiences, people might sit and think, but I'm a good person, I don't talk like that. But there must be more we can do, right? So in your opinion, and what would you tell the young guys who, follow you, what can they do to combat this when they see their friends doing things like that?
I think the obvious answer is tell them to stand up. Not everyone is going to do that. So I think what we just spoke about in the previous question, normalizing sex, normalizing talking about all these things, that's what's required. Because, people, as much as people can stand up for what's wrong, you can't change an adult male's mindset that drastically, and that's the harsh truth. So rather, definitely condemn them. It's wrong what they did, but focus on the next generation as well. So try making the world a better place for the future. And as of now, I do feel that it's not just male influencers or female influencers. I feel that every human should be like talking about this, like whatever happened.
Yeah,
So
no, absolutely. And I think that's, it's one reaction to just get angry and be like, Phasi pe chirao and all of that, which, I had this great conversation with Trisha Shetty, and she said the solution may not be hanging rapists, because a lot of rape happens within families. And so people will shy away from reporting it. So anyway, like veering off a little bit from this topic, which I think obviously requires more in-depth examination for sure. One of the things I'm really excited to talk to you about is, I think you and I believe a great deal in spirituality and the core of us not being the physical part of our being. So all these things do have a mental impact on us. So what do you think? I've been struggling with this thought that the universe is getting us to pause the hustle by doing it. Like, just guys, everybody chill, stop for a second. Like, it's almost like go sit in a corner and think about what you've done so far, So what do you think?
That's exactly what I think. That's you just said it. That I think everyone was going too hard on their own lives, especially urban humans, people who live in cities all over the world, not just urban India. Yeah. All over the world, everyone's going too intense on themselves. They're stressing themselves out with work, and then to balance out all the stress, they're getting like deeper into partying, which then like it's just this vicious cycle. You kind of escape from your daily life into the partying, then you go deep in that, and then therefore So I do genuinely believe that we're entering a new, much better world. As harsh as the current scenario is, as difficult as it is for most of India that's facing this, I do believe that it's a break that the world needed. Especially, I think I tweeted about this. I think that every single privileged person in the world, who's safe, who doesn't have to worry about their food, who doesn't have to worry about their shelter, has got exactly what they needed. So say if you were going hard on your life, you've got that break and you've got perspective now to like stop and probably change your direction. And if you're someone who is very arrogant, you've been like humbled by this. Yeah.
And I think what's amazing is, and I've seen this myself, I would spend so much time in hair and makeup before I did a video. You don't have that choice now, right? So we're being so much more authentic. I feel even influencers are sharing their emotions and being, part of that. And I think a lot of this is, and and I get it, a lot of people watching this may not believe in spirituality and rebirth and souls, and I totally get that. But I believe in this, and I feel that there's something to it. And I wonder what we're supposed to learn from this, that we're supposed to carry forward. Like, this is a very big thing that happened. It's unprecedented in our lifetimes. And I wonder why our souls on this spiritual journey have reached this point, right? There's that book I told you about, the Celestine Prophecy, that says the reason why we have so much more anxiety today is because we're so much more aware of our place in the world. We've become so aware that, okay, I'm here, I can think, therefore I am, but what am I doing here? So have you ever thought about this? Like, I sometimes thought I was in the movie The Truman Show, because I'm like, why am I me? Like, why do I have everything from my POV? And so, do you feel that way?
I think that's the core thought in any spiritual person's mind, that POV thing you spoke about, where you look at your hands and you're like, what is the experience? So definitely had that thought. I'll tell you from the world of yoga what this whole situation is supposed to be. So right from, how in 2012 there was this huge thing about how the world's going to end in 2012.
Yeah.
2012 is supposed to be the final wing in yoga, which goes on till say about 2050, 2060. And this whole phase is something called pralay, which means like a rebirth. It's a destruction and a rebirth, like what the Ice Age was. So as scary as this sounds, the world of spirituality says that situations like this are going to keep happening. And even the world of science says that you can anticipate more pandemics like this happening.
Yeah.
So the lockdown, even if it's lifted off, over the next 30 years, we're going to see more situations like this. And honestly, the world of spirituality also says that these situations will stop happening when human beings learn what they're supposed to learn from like these situations. So for example, how you look outside your window and the sunlight is like nicer. The air is cleaner. The trees are healthier. So it's kind of, the earth is giving us a sign of, this is what happens when you guys chill, stay at home, live sustainable lives. And I feel that if we come out of this situation and continue being sustainable, we'll have passed our tests. But if we don't, it's probably gonna
happen again.
Yeah, it's gonna happen again.
It's exactly, I think, the same concept that happens in spirituality or Hinduism and all these about karmic debt.
Yeah,
You know, so you
100%.
have two kinds. You have debt with the world at large, with each other, and then you have debt with individual people. And, you know, I really like, so there's a guy, Dr. Brian Weiss, I was telling you about,
Right.
you know, who used to be a clinical psychologist and then ended up regressing one of his patients to a previous life and so started believing in it. And I love this concept that says we're rising in levels in our world where, you know, you're supposed to keep coming back to fulfill some karmic debt and then move on. And, you know, so we're all actually like little souls repeating experiences. And people ask the question, but then why are there more souls if there's a certain number? It's because souls are splitting to have different experiences.
Exactly.
What blew my mind is that it's actually one giant soul that is split up into 7 billion pieces. And having these experiences, and which is why when you look into someone's eyes, you see the universe, you see yourself. So I mean, the question then that I wonder about is what is it all about? Like, Ranveer, like what is going on? Is it just like giant God's playground of just fun? Like, are we part of some Lego set, or is there something else?
So, I mean, karma is the most important thing in the universe. And I think people understand the concept of karma without understanding the actual depth of it. It's that one single currency of the universe, and life is a game of karma. So karma isn't just, you know, how you react in situations or how well you treat people. It's also the work you do. Is your work impactful in the world? Which also answers your first question about the numbers. That as long as you understand that the work you're putting out is creating a difference and you know, helping the people after you, it's actually much more impactful than numbers. And that's something that's helped me as well. I think only over like the last year and a half or so, I've stopped playing that number game because I've realized that, hold up, I need to probably suffer because of my own karmas and then teach people the things I've learned from my own suffering. So pass on your learnings. That's good karma. Be a good person. That's good karma. Do good for the planet. That's good karma. Live sustainably. That's good karma. So I just feel that the purpose of life is to climb that ladder. And honestly, even the purpose of earning money, power, fame, it's to actually climb the ladder faster. Because say tomorrow you become the world's richest person, it depends on you whether you want to keep being richer like Jeff Bezos or you want to stop somewhere like Bill Gates and say, okay, now I'm going to change the planet.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're absolutely right. I was going to say that people might think that, okay, well, you know, maybe I'm not the kind of person who wants to give everything up and work for an NGO. You don't have to. I mean, I love that Japanese concept of ikigai. What do you love to do? What can you be paid to do? What, you know, what are you good at? And what does the world need? That fourth piece, you can actually do everything together. And I feel so glad that I found my purpose. You know, with Malini's Girl Tribe, where for a long time I was struggling because I'm like, okay, I'm not a Huda Beauty. I'm not a Kim Kardashian. Like, who am I, you know, in the scheme of things? Because I've always felt we've become so obsessed with the rat race, the money, the fame, and we've got it wrong. Like, we're here for 80, 100 years max on the planet. So this can't be what it's about, right? Like, there's that line from Moulin Rouge, the greatest thing you'll ever learn is to love and be loved in return. You know, I literally got that tattooed on my ribs. Keep it as a reminder. So, and what you said about the currency of the world, I genuinely feel the greatest currency today is positivity. And the great thing is you can generate an endless amount. You can be a positivity billionaire on your own. It's all in you.
Yeah, which also puts it into perspective, puts being an influencer into perspective, because you've got such a huge platform to put out positivity in such a huge way compared to the average urban Indian or urban human, that, you know, so many people are looking at the work you do. So that karma that you would have put out into the world by being nice to your cousin or telling your cousin what to do in life can now be multiplied by 10,000 to all the online cousins you have.
Yeah. And I genuinely believe that everybody has, like, nobody's born with that evil bone in their body, right? Everyone, something happened along the way. So which is why, you know, I was even thinking about that auntie, right? Who told the girl that you're wearing clothes like this.
Yeah.
And, you know, everyone attacked her, and I get why they attacked her and, you know, shamed her. But is she going to learn anything from that? So what is the way, and what do you think? What is the way to get through to people who are biased or have this wrong impression, or even the young guys who think if a girl is wearing jeans, she's fair game? How do you get through to someone like that without making them defensive? Because as soon as you attack them, they're not going to hear anything you say.
Yeah, that's honestly, I don't have an answer to that question, because I've had parallel experiences like that. If I'm trying to tell someone the right way to do something or the right way to approach something, everyone's got their own stories and their own pasts. And if they've probably seen their own fathers making those mistakes, it's very likely that they will assume that that's the rule of life. So everyone's got their own evolutionary paths, and you can't really do anything to change that one person. You can't talk to them peacefully, try explaining it to them like an adult. But the key here is not to explain it to that woman, it's to explain it to her children, because that's how you break the change. That's just what I feel.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. So that's literally, I read this thing I was putting in my book, I think that Ralph Waldo Emerson said, is that it's the job of the ancestors to write the books for the next generation.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's really key. And I think it's true. I feel optimistic that our generation is going to make a change. You know, we're
100%.
going to be the parents that know the difference, and it's normalized. It's not like, oh, I decided to send my daughter to school. It's a given. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
I really, you know, I love this conversation, and I think we can have it for hours and hours. Like I told you, I think we really should consider starting a podcast and talking about these things together.
I'm always open to it.
Let's just do something. But it was so nice to talk to you about this.
Likewise.
And there's so many different things to talk about. But sending you so much love. Thank you for all the work you do. It's absolutely incredible.
Right back at you.
You know, you inspire me so much for, you know, being positive, and a positive male influence is what we need more of in life.
Thank you. That means a lot coming from you. You know where you stand in my eyes, so I don't need to tell you that.
Thank you so much, and it's good to see you, and I'll catch you soon. Hopefully, guys who are watching, tell us if you think we should do a podcast, if you'd like to hear it, if you'd like to hear more of our random ramblings about the universe, maybe we'll consider doing something.
Sure.
Bye.
Bye, Malini. See you.